Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Moose and today I'll be telling you about the 3 biggest mistakes you can make as a Yu-Gi-Oh player, new or returning player as you come back into the game, and why you should not make these mistakes, why they'll stop you from being a better player. So let's get into the video, but before that make sure to leave a like, leave a comment down below telling me what do you think of this video and what I said, and subscribe for more content like this. So let's get into how to make you a better Yu-Gi-Oh player. Let's go. So, first mistake people make, right, is when they come back into the game, they don't really know what they're doing, they don't have anyone to play with, they don't have any friends playing Yu-Gi-Oh, they don't look for the locals, they just buy a deck, or whatever it is, either structure decks, or they buy a really expensive deck core that they saw online, and they think that's going to help them win. It won't. Because if you pick up a deck and play it for the first time, you expect to be good at it. You're not going to be. Every deck takes time to learn, so if you play that deck and you expect it to be viable and it's not, they get discouraged and they stop and they just, think that they're bad or the deck is bad. Sometimes it's a really good deck, you never know. Net decking, not a bad thing. Doing your research is important, but don't buy the first cheap deck you see online, or don't just go online and buy an expensive deck because it's expensive, it must be good. You don't want to invest too much in the game at the beginning. You don't need to be picking up max rarity decks or anything like that at the beginning. You just need cards to play with. The second mistake people make is that once they've picked a deck, they don't spend enough time with it. They play it once or twice and they decide that, this deck is bad because I'm losing and therefore I'm not going to play. And they keep cycling through new decks, giving it maybe 1-2 weeks maximum, and each time they keep losing. So they stop playing the deck. They keep moving on, they keep spending more money on the game, but they don't really get any enjoyment out of it because they keep on losing and they can't understand why. So if you've picked a deck and you're trying to make it sort of viable, figure out what you're missing. Where are you losing? What is the, what are the opportunities to get better, and where can you make your deck more streamlined and better viable? Now, remember that some decks are going to be more viable than others, the meta is changing all the time, but if you found a deck that is semi-viable, keep at it, keep playing it, don't stop because you're losing. And this leads us into point number 3. This is the most important point for new players, so do not click away. Returning players, same thing. Even experienced players sometimes make this mistake, right? And that is that don't stop playing because you are losing. A lot of new players get discouraged because they come to locals and they lose all their opening games. Right? Disclaimer, right? When I started back into the game, it took me maybe 3 weeks before I won my first game, let alone my first match, right? I think maybe I won my first match at that locals too, but I got lucky. And now I go and I can actually pick up a decent win rate. It's not a foregone conclusion that I'll lose. I'm a better player now. And that comes down to experience. Keep playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Don't stop because you feel like you're not good enough, your deck isn't good enough, and the other players are too good. Losing doesn't make you a bad Yu-Gi-Oh! Player. But quitting means you won't get better. It's well and good to solo test on things like EDO Pro, Dueling Book, Master, whatever you want to do. Build a deck, test it on there, play solo hands if you have the deck built already. Sure, you'll get to know your own deck. But half of Yu-Gi-Oh!, maybe more than half, is understanding the interplay between your deck and your opponent's deck. And to do that, you actually have to play. Remember, if you play and you lose, don't just say I lost. Learn from what your opponent did. Were they using hand traps? Did they time the interruptions? Were they playing more cohesively? Did you make mistakes in timing your interruptions? There's always something to learn from your opponents. So the biggest mistake Yu-Gi-Oh! Players make, and especially new players, is they don't learn from their losses. They take it that their losses mean that they haven't learned anything. If you lose a game, that's fine. Figure out what you did wrong and do it better next time. And if it takes you a couple of weeks or a couple of months to do it, that's fine too. But don't quit because you are losing. The point of the game is not to win at the beginning. Honestly, you know how they say the most powerful card in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is the credit card? That works to an extent. You give someone really skilled a mid-range deck, and you give a novice an incredibly powerful deck, and maybe 7 to 8 times out of 10, the skilled player will win. I don't want to say 9 because that just sounds cocky, but 7 to 8 at least out of 10, the skilled player will win with that mid-power deck because they just know how to play better. And the newbie, even though they may have the best cards, doesn't always know when to play them and may play them wrong. So you gotta give yourself time to learn the game, learn the cards. Yu-Gi-Oh! Isn't a simple game in terms of you know your own deck and you win, right? You need to learn each match is going to be different. Each strategy is going to be different because, like I said in an earlier video, there are different types of Yu-Gi-Oh! Decks and your approach to each of them has to be different. You can check out that video above. But just make sure that if you find the locals, if you find people that are willing to play with you as a new player, that's fine. Even if you lose every single game for a few months, that's fine. Learn from those losses. Get better from those losses. Gain experience. And from there, you'll see maybe you want to pick up a different deck. And if you do that, like I said in point number 2, stick with it. It'll actually be good for you. You'll learn so much more. Because the players that have been playing for 10 years and haven't learned anything from their mistakes can easily be beaten by a player who's been playing for a year, actively playing, knows what their deck does, knows what their opponent's decks do, and can play around that and can think through their plays better. And that kind of strategic thinking, in the context of a game like this where each card has its own effects, only comes from experience. So don't shoot yourself in the foot, don't give up before you get that experience, learn from what you're doing, get that experience for yourself, and make sure that you let it make you a better player. Because that is the number one mistake people make. They quit too early because they think that they are bad players because they are losing. Losing doesn't make you a bad player, and winning doesn't always make you a good player. So focus on gaining experience and learning from it, and you'll be good to go. That's my take. What do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments, and make sure to subscribe for more content like this. Thanks everyone. See you next time.